Beautiful music right there, and we'll continue enjoying that as we continue with our breakfast this Thursday. And it's time now to take a look at the headlines this morning. And with me, I have Kimani Wamatangi, Senator from Kiambu County. Good morning.
Morning, and thank you.
On my left, we have Bwana Boni Halwale, Senator from Kakamega County, and of course Daniel Manzo, MP from Makueni. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Today we have quite a number of headlines. Of course, there's so much to discuss, so much to talk about, but of course, the biggest headline continues to be the crisis in the health sector. Right. The doctors and nurses strike enters its fourth day today. People continue to die, and yesterday, for the very first time since this crisis started, the president broke his silence and spoke about it. And that story is on page 7 of the Daily Nation, and he's begging for mercy. He's asking doctors to let me just see. Is asking doctors to be merciful to patients and appealing to their softer side. Do you think, even before we start looking at these other headlines, do you think that is how the president should approach this crisis? It is a huge crisis. We've seen him before saying when on the issue of corruption that he's helpless. Now we're seeing him talking about a crisis where people are dying, and he's asking people to have mercy.
Yeah, these statements were made in Makueni, at where they were lodging an hospital, actually a crisis hospital, at Makindo. And you can imagine the president going to open up an hospital which has no doctors. And you know, the president has powers to end this strike even within 5 minutes.
Apparently he said, because he even thanked a number of medics who are there, and I don't know, are there people in Makueni, are there doctors in Makueni who are still working? There were
consultations, and you know Makindu is a hospital on the highway, so you are likely to have a lot of emergencies. They were actually very, you know, they did a little bit of consultation, and a few doctors agreed to go and welcome the president, which was very kind of them. But you can see the president is not being kind to the doctors. He is pleading for mercy, but he's not being merciful. He has, you know, he has to be merciful to doctors himself. If you have visited any of the district or any of the level 5 hospitals or any hospital, you find medical personnel very busy, helping and saving lives. And I can assure you they save lives daily. But, you know, they're impoverished. And this is a matter the president can sort out in 5 minutes. He doesn't need, it actually needs him, because the minister and the rest of the team represent the president. They are his agents, who for now have failed miserably. And you know, everybody is now waiting for his serious word.
Yes.
So I think he has to take the matter seriously, stop every other business, and deal with the doctor's issue. 19 Kenyans are now dead.
Yes. Dr. Halwale, the president surely does take his time before reacting to something. From Monday till Wednesday when people are dying, and then the first thing he says is have mercy on citizens.
Yeah, that confirms that President Uhuru is out of touch with the grassroots. He's out of touch with the suffering of the day-to-day suffering of Kenyans. And it begs only one thing. Did he go to office to be part of a solution or be part of a problem? A statement like the one he made, he was confirming that he's part of the problem. The issue here is money. And the president was seen this year with members of parliament, and he commanded them, I want you to pass this budget in 20 minutes. The MPs scrambled, went to parliament, and they passed budget. It means he has the power to order his so-called tyranny of numbers in parliament to pass, if it requires a budget, to have doctors get the money they need. Doctors are also fathers. They need to pay school fees. They need to buy food. So the president should forgive doctors. Seeing deputy president every day, not every day, every weekend on TV with bundles of cash like this, throwing around in meaningless harambes of churches and what have you. Why would doctors think that there is no money?
Yes. And incidentally, now that you mentioned harambes, today is the 8th of December, and that means the ban on harambes for anyone who's interested in running for elected seats next year starting today, you're no longer allowed to be part of any Harambee. But back to because we'll discuss that issue later. Back to this issue of the president's comment on the ongoing strike. Surely this is the second time we're seeing the president appearing and portray himself as being helpless in terms of crisis. We had it during the summit on governance and the corruption summit at State House. Now yesterday again he's pleading for mercy from doctors. And surely people expected something different from the president, don't you agree?
You know, I think part of what has been said about that is at best, you know, laughable, if you ask me. Because I mean, we try to portray as though the president is a statue, as though he's made of stone. You know, I mean, he's a human being.
But surely
he's a human being.
Up to him
let me make this probably clear in perspective. One, you know, about the ongoing strike. This is about a negotiation which has been ongoing. We've been clear. I have been, especially as a representative of the people, that because this has been something that has been for long been in the hands of the ministry and also the medics. The faster they fast track this and come up with a solution, the better for this country. Now, having said that, you know, Fred, I was thinking about this deeply yesterday, and these are my thoughts. I think there are three professions that we must distinguish from others, and people who choose to engage in those professions must know that they're not simply looking for a job to earn bread. They're engaging in a vocation. And one of them is teaching, secondly, doctors, you know, and thirdly, soldiers. Those are not people who can just afford to take their jobs like any other job that you go and look for as a secretary. And you know, when I see the doctors, and let me first put my point clear, that I really understand, because I'm an employer. I know that, as Senator Halole says, doctors are parents, they are fathers, they are uncles, they have needs like all of us. But that having been said, and it is also quite justified and in order that they should have reasonable pay, and they should have the space to negotiate and bargain about it. But think about this. What suffering have we seen when teachers have gone on strike, when our children are about to go and sit for the exams? What losses? Let me make my point too.
Let me
make my point.
Invite the union to stay
just a minute. Let me first make my point. Two, let's look at a case now of doctors, and you have seen what has happened, and liken this to a scenario. And this is what I would want to urge our medics. Can you imagine, for example, when this country is in a state, and I want at this point to commend and laud the action of our defenders, that is our service forces. Because I have never had, at a time when this country is in need, would you imagine that a soldier in the trenches holding a gun to defend the country saying, first increase my salary before I defend the lives of the people, when we are under attack from Al-Shabaab, when we are under attack from where? And this is what I'm saying, that what the doctors need to realize is that there is a very, very big portion of their profession that has got to do with humanity, being human, being humane. And when the president talks about have mercy on the people, he does not say don't negotiate. In fact, you can, if you read through the statement, he has followed it through by saying that the faster there is a solution, the better. But my point is this, Senator Halole, let me make my point, because I think this point is important. It is important for Kenyans at this particular. It is because the conclusion you want is not what there is. But
the main concern is the headline about seeing the president. Fine, we understand the crisis and the magnitude of it, but the president, obviously, everyone, even any patient in hospital, including the doctors, was expecting the president to come out strongly and say something.
Tell the doctors, for example, go to work right now.
No,
that is
not
not
really.
possible. Constitutionally, it is not possible. Yeah, I mean, these people under union,
you know,
there is a collective bargaining agreement which they're supposed to follow.
Wamatangi, you're the senator for Kiambu.
Yes.
The county of the president.
Absolutely.
Kenyans look at you as somebody who has unlimited access to the president. I'm scared if the way you are talking suggests the kind of advice you might be giving the president on this kind of matter, then God have mercy on Kenya. Look,
go beyond that.
The immediate solution is the president to return the doctors and nurses to hospital. Give them money. The second one is for the president to address the long-term strategy. What should he do? He should sit with the Council of Governors and say, I apologize to you. Health was fully devolved, but I had been holding billions of shillings at the headquarters in Nairobi. For example, in the last budget, 60 billion is held here in the head office on issues of policy and what have you. That is the money that should be taken to the governors for the governors to use it to improve the health delivery on the ground. The problem is political because the Jubilee politicians are corrupt and they are writing on the corrupt politicians of yesteryear. Even the houses that doctors used to graduate and go and stay in, politicians have taken them. Nurses have nowhere to stay. A nurse comes from Madare in the slums, and they expect.
Have they been taken by politicians from Jubilee?
No,
yes,
but
why do you see a fact? Why do you see a fact?
Be fair to the country and be fair. Show me the profession.
Show me to speak. Because now this has turned into a Jubilee versus CORD issue. Very fast degenerated into that. Surely our headline and what we're looking at is a concern that the first word from the president about this crisis, 3 days, 20 dead people later, is have mercy. That is a point of concern. Not really whether we do understand the magnitude of the problem. Yes,
he was talking about constitution, and as Senator Halwale said, you see, when the president wants things done in this country, they can be done. Yeah. You know, we do budget in this country. In fact, this week, Parliament is making budget.
Exactly.
Why are provisions not being made under emergency? Because this is an emergency, and even we keep billions of shillings under the emergency kitty,
yes,
which we never know how it is used eventually. When there are no emergencies, or when emergencies occur, they pretend to have used it, like the last case of El Nino rains. We never saw our share of the money in Makueni County where the waters really messed us up. So that money, why can't it be given to doctors as a solution? Because doctors are underpaid, and the job done by a doctor is not a simple job. They save lives. They save the biggest capital into a country. The problem is corruption. There's a lot of corruption in the country. That's why you know these monies the government is giving out in Harambee. The deputy president gives. The president gives in Harambee. We know their salaries. We know their income and other investments. Unless that money comes from corruption and is being drawn from some kitty somewhere in government, there's no way you will dish man like that.
Okay. As we end discussion on this, I'll ask you a very simple question. If you are the president,
yes, without
really telling doctors have mercy on the patients, what do you think the president should do?
Okay, can we introduce the sincerity into the debate?
Yes, please.
That's very important,
yes,
because that's what was extracted by my two colleagues when they tried to address this, and I would want to draw their conscience.
Something practical that the president should do, even just to give confidence.
I would want to first draw the conscience of my two colleagues here to this debate, and by referring to something very simple. There was a time when, from their coalition, they have agitated very, very strongly that commissioners from the IEBC should go home. The first thing they started was saying the president must sack those people and send them away. Then quickly they reverted and remembered that That process requires the law. The president is not able to do it. And they quickly went to Parliament and said, we want to form a committee and address it via the law and have it done, because they know that that's the way it's supposed to be. Now, when they try to introduce this, political knee-jerk of saying that the president has the powers to order doctors to go back to work and provide a solution.
The answer
is not.
I can tell him what the law says. I'm a lawyer.
The answer is very, very simple.
Yes.
And as you saw yesterday and the day before, these two teams were reported by yourselves as the media that they were in a day-long discussion.
They up till now talks of collapse. And salary talks collapse.
And you see, that is the whole thing. That's where the solution lies. In ensuring that the negotiations which involve these two teams, and we must give the agencies, the people, the bodies that represent other professionals the opportunity to be able to. You cannot say that when there is a strike by miners, the president becomes a miner and comes with all the solutions.
So
doctors, he becomes a doctor.
Stay away from this.
I mean, when it comes to the nitty-gritty of the professional, really binding agreement, he should leave it to the people. But on offering the administrative and leadership, concept of it, he should be able to do it, just like he has.
Dr. Halwale, simple. If you are the president, what would you do today?
Very easy. I will not waste time calling for a meeting between myself and the doctors. The meeting that the president needs is between him and the Council of Governors. Then, quickly, the national government tells the Council of Governors, we are releasing this much for the doctors, because we are hoarding money at the headquarters. Then the Council of Governors, because the Council of Governors should know that governors also have a responsibility. The national government is not the employer of doctors. Then the Council of Governors will say on their part they are addressing this way. Then they address the media, and doctors are extremely brilliant people. They'll go back on duty.
Yes.
And Wamatangi, just remember, this is not the first time. First, with the teachers' crisis, the president responded knee-jerk by closing all public schools. He became the first president in the history of Africa. Even Idi Amin, Mobutu Sese Seko, even the current Robert Mugabe, they have never closed public schools. He closed public schools as his way of solving the crisis. Today, first with the doctors' strike, his way of solving it is, let me appeal to them.
I thought you would have finalized that point by saying...
No, it's my point. If you have your own point,
you'd have finalized this in my thinking. That now that you've drawn a very good comparison about the teachers' strike, how was it ended? By a court resolution, or by a presidential directive, or by a solution arrived at by negotiation?
Yes.
It was they negotiated and came up with a solution.
But Manzo,
that is the point.
Do you think the president's appeal yesterday for doctors and nurses to have mercy on patients would have actually been more effective if at all he had called the union or these doctors to State House and actually appealed to them directly and not publicly, the way he did during a public rally?
I thought engaging them directly would have been good, but the solution is pretty simple. Everybody knows the case of doctors, and it is a clear case of mismanagement of the country's affairs. Yes. You remember one of these politicians associated with the Jubilee, while attempting to negotiate with their doctors, called them stupid. And you know how many years a doctor goes to school. In fact, people who read medicine in this country, as much as I remember, they are the A students. So the moment you call doctors stupid, you yourself as a person, where are you going to go the next day? The day you become sick.
Which politician is that?
You know, one of the governors.
Mheshimiwa, let me
not be fair to discuss, but you know,
you talk about the governor.
Everyone knows you need
don't mislead.
Why we don't need these talks between the president and the doctors is because already there is a collective bargaining agreement signed by both parties, and the doctors, all they are saying is implement it. So why do you want to talk to them?
Now,
put money into that particular.
Now that is
agreement.
That's the issue.
Just a minute,
yes.
My brother. Now, to confirm how confused President and his government are, instead of addressing that, they go to the Ministry of Health and they see where there is cash that they can now partake of tenders, i.e., for example, the misguided purchase of specialized medical equipment. 38 billion. All those equipments, 90% of them are not in use because either they have nowhere to be put, or there are no specialists to operate them, or there are no paramedical technicians who are supposed to back up those systems. They are just there. The government ran into it, and because it was a sweet tender of 38 billion, where they made a kill of 11 billion, that scandal is about to come. Wait for it. They then effected it, and that money has gone down to West.
Yes.
You are unable to manage.
You are unable. For the final word on this, so we need to go for a break.
I would rather, because you see, this is a big issue to this country. People are dying, and I have said, I was on air yesterday saying it as plainly as this. That those that are dying now, those that are suffering the most, are the weakest and the poorest and the ones who don't have the luxury or the solutions available to Dr. Halwale now and my friend Manzo here, where they have got cash in their pockets, in their banks. They can go to pharmacies. They can go wherever and get their own solutions. The people who are suffering now are the lowly, the most poor. You know, and so when we try to you know, bring about technical and political stories about this, let me make my point. This is the issue, and the approach to this is simple.
Yes.
That collective bargaining agreement you're hearing about, the doctors talking about, is about a long-term pay that they expect. This is how we are going to be paid, not now, but
really?
I mean, the negotiation is not about a bundle of money kept somewhere that was
to start. In fact, they're claiming arrears.
Yes, part of arrears, but also futuristic. Yes, it is part of arrears, but what they will be earning in the long term. That's the whole story. And so this is something that requires understanding, requires structures, requires a lot of consideration from finance to the economy and so many things. And it is not as easy. You know, the issue of scandals and what have you that we're talking about, that is political debate and other issues that can come at their own time. But this is about the life of Kenya. Gentlemen, it's not about politics.
Now first take a short break. We'll be back to discuss a lot more headlines. The fact remains that the strike by doctors and nurses countrywide entered its fourth day today. Close to 20 people have died so far as a direct result of doctors and nurses being away from hospitals. And the president spoke for the very first time about this issue yesterday while on a tour of Makueni, and he appealed to the doctors and nurses to be merciful to the patients and at least consider the loss of life. Let's take a short break. We'll be back with more.